Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Love in Progress, the podcast for emotionally intelligent, growth minded singles who are doing the work and still believe in real love. I'm your host, Miss Nookie, and today's episode is a tender one because we're about to talk about something that so many of us are navigating. How do you date while healing without losing yourself? Because the truth is, healing doesn't mean hiding, and dating doesn't mean abandoning yourself. But when you're doing the work, it's easy to wonder if love is a distraction or a doorway. So let's unpack this together. So, why we struggle with this? We struggle with this if you're healing from abandonment, betrayal, narcissistic abuse, childhood trauma, divorce, or heartbreak. Those are five big, big areas to heal from. And that's what the struggle is. While you're working on yourself, when you first start your healing journey, I know for me, when I began healing, I was afraid to date. And I'll say I was afraid to I was afraid to date because I didn't necessarily trust myself to not make the same mistakes again. So I isolated myself. I didn't date for a while I was healing. And now I know better. Because when you're dating, we you need to understand how in control you are. You are in control. Now, if control is an issue for you, like it was for me, that's where things start to fall apart. But when you start healing and you start to love yourself, then you start to regain that control and you can go on those dates and you can not be physical with someone and you can excuse me, and you can go on those dates and you can reflect from them differently when you're healing. It won't be the same motions as, you meet someone and automatically, okay, that's my husband. One date, that's my husband. And then you begin to spiral. You start to plan out your whole entire life, what your kids are going to look like, what cars you're going to drive, how many bedrooms your house are after one date. And then you end up so utterly hurt when it doesn't work out because you put so much into it. But as you start to heal, you gain that self-control where you still may fantasize a little bit. I think everyone fantasizes a little bit after a first date. Just we shouldn't go from first date to marriage. Yes, in some cases it happens, 1% of the population. We're not talking about that population. We're talking about everybody else. Everybody isn't everybody isn't that special to have that 1% experience. So let's prepare for it all. And so for the 99%, let's do that healing work so that we can have more control while we're healing. When you're healing from abandonment, you end up with an anxious attachment style. And that can definitely hinder you being in a relationship because you may not know how to express to someone what your needs are, number one. And number two, if you know you have an anxious attachment style, how do you relay that to someone who you don't even know, or someone where you don't even know how far you're going to get. So there's all of those things going on. But also, if you're healing from that abandonment, why not go out there, go on that date? And if that person abandons you, see how it affects you. And it shouldn't affect you as much as it did in the past because you're beginning to heal from that. You're healing from betrayal. That's just, you just don't trust anybody. You don't trust yourself because sometimes you may feel as if you've betrayed yourself. So how are you going to be out here dating, trusting other people? But we can. And why do I say we can't? We compartmentalize so much of our lives in general. Now, when I say compartmentalize our lives, I'm talking about in terms of who you are when you go to work. That's one version of you. Who you are when you're at home, that's another version of you. Who you are with your girlfriends, that's another version of you. We compartmentalize our lives in every aspect except this dating world. And one of the main reasons is because it's something that we were never taught. We were never taught how to navigate emotions. And navigating emotions, it's not necessarily that you can be taught how to navigate your emotions, because approaching how to deal with your emotions, it's subjective. It's going to be different for everybody. So all you can do is go around trying to find different tips and ways by talking to other people of things that they do and they use to cope. So when you're healing, as you're healing, don't be afraid to still step out there, still go out with the intention of meeting people, or go out and be open to meet people. I'll say that. You might be healing and you may not want to be on the dating apps. A-okay. But if you're healing and you're single and you still want to date, and you may not want to be on the dating apps because you're doing that healing work, have a mindset to be open to meet someone organically. You don't want to cut off all of your options. You don't want to do that. You never want to do that. So at least have a mindset where, I may not be proactively dating, but I will not turn down someone who could potentially be a prospect. So let's do that. While you're healing, if you don't feel like proactively dating, at least be open to dating. Because one thing about love and relationships, it truly does happen when you least expect it. So at least always have it in the back of your mind that you are open. For example, right now, I'm not on any dating apps. I'm taking a break until January. So I'm not proactively dating. I'm not, out here on the prowl per se, but I'm open, if I meet someone during my travels as I'm, doing errands or going back and forth to work or what have you. If I meet someone randomly on the street, I will be open to talking to them and seeing if something can happen. And know that it's okay. And just because you meet someone, I think, especially the older we get, the more pressure we feel. And we feel this pressure to tick off a box. So we approach dating as, I feel like we approach dating as a task that we need to complete. And when you think of it as a task that needs to be completed, you take all of the emotions out of it. It becomes something that I need to do rather than something I want in my life. And that's the difference. That's the mindset change that we need to develop. Now, while you're healing, when you're experiencing the abandonment, betrayal, narcissistic abuse, childhood trauma, divorce, or heartbreak, sometimes You may be caught between two extremes. A hyper independence. Your heart was broken. Fuck it. I don't need anyone. I'm going to do everything by myself. Because if I do everything by myself, there's no one to hurt me. There's no one to disappoint me. I got it. Or over attachment. I just want someone to make it better. Now, over attachment, that's when you're acting really needy. The over attachment. When you're in an over attachment state of mind, that's when you are putting your happiness on someone else. If you heard what I just said about over attachment, I just want someone to make it better. And far too many times, we do this in general. We place our happiness in someone else's arms. And that's what we need to stop doing. Because there is a middle ground. Dating with discernment while honoring your healing. Now, how can we reframe this? How can we reframe this mindset? We can reframe it by saying, here's affirmation for you. I can be healing and still be ready to love again with boundaries, with clarity, and with care. I can be healing and still be ready to love again with boundaries, with clarity, and with care. And that's the key. Because while you're on your healing journey, when you're going through those rigors, you're creating your boundaries. You're knowing what your negotiables and non-negotiables are. You're clarifying what you're really looking for. And you're not just accepting dates from any and anybody that comes, because you have more of a mission plan. You have a plan now. That's what healing does. You're creating that plan to make sure that you don't feel that same way again. So your eyes are more open. And that's why while you're healing, you can date again. Because the moment you start to see certain signs, certain toxicities, you're just going to leave. You're going to leave because you told yourself that you're not doing this again. This is not happening again. That's it. No. No man or no woman is going to put me in this certain situation. And if I see certain behaviors or hear certain tonalities in someone's voice, I already know, absolutely not. I'm out. That's what healing does. Healing helps you to prepare, to know, and be able to walk away from what you absolutely do not want. You're not going to create a story. You're not going to create a narrative in your head about the potential that you see in this person, because when you are healing, you begin to see through the bullshit. So healing does. Blocks you from the bullshit. Blocks you from the bullshit. So I had a client who paused dating to heal. And so we worked together for 6 months. She was coming off of a very bad breakup. They were together for about 5 years. And we started journaling. The journal that I tell you about, describe the characteristics that you want in your person. I even told her, write the good characteristics of your ex, because you definitely want all the good. I said, now write about the type of relationship that you want and write about all the good things that happen in that relationship. And write about how you showed up in that relationship and how better you can show up in your next relationship. And that's what we started working on. And the more clarity that she began to see, the more willing she was to at least go out to a happy hour and sit at a bar and see if she could meet someone. She felt more comfortable because she had a plan of action. She knew more about herself. And it's funny because on one of these happy hour outings that she did by herself, she did meet someone. She met someone and, they had a wonderful conversation at the bar and they exchanged numbers and he never called her. She never called him. And she was okay with that. At first, she complained, why isn't he calling me? Like, we had such a good conversation. Why isn't he reaching out? And it bothered her. And I had to remind her that, this is how dating is. Some people have dating etiquette, some people don't. And she started to feel some abandonment wounds creep in. But then I said, okay, abandonment, that's something that you've been dealing with for a long time. Why do you feel abandoned by a complete stranger? You had a nice conversation. You exchanged numbers and it didn't work out. Let's not look deeper into the situation than it is. This isn't someone who you were dating for a prolonged period of time and they disappeared. I said, honey, think of him as practice. Whenever things don't go right in dating, it's practice. It's practice. It's practice, or it's something that the universe wanted you to experience so you can learn a lesson from it and move on. So for those of you out there who feel like you keep dating the same person over and over again and you keep getting the same heartbreak, it's because you're not learning the lesson that the universe is trying to teach you. You're not learning the lesson. You're not learning to change your approach. You're not learning to pivot, move in a different direction because you're stuck. You keep approaching dating the same exact way and expecting a different result. What is that the definition of? Insanity. That's not going to happen. You need to change. If you want change, you need to change. I want to change. I was a Northerner for most of my life. And here I am, a Southerner for 3 years. I wanted something different, so I came to a whole new part of the US. I wanted something different, so I took a chance. And when it comes to dating, there are so many different chances that you're going to have to take until you find your person. There is no easy route. But let me ask you this. Would you appreciate it if it was easy? Would you truly appreciate it? I had this discussion last week where, I talked about how many people tend to thrive in toxicity. And when someone who's healed or on their healing journey comes through, they don't know how to react to them. They scare them away because it's something new and different. It's a different approach and they don't know what to do. But you have to be willing to change if you want a different result. Now, I want to talk about healing a little bit more. Now, while healing in isolation, it can be safe. It can be safe because you're focusing on you, you're going through the relationship, the good and the bad of the relationship. What were the bad things that happened? What caused the bad things that happened? How did you participate in the bad things or negative things that happened in the relationship? How did you contribute to conversations about the negative things? These are all things that you need to change. And the reason why dating while healing is good, because healing in a relationship is often where the real work truly begins, when you're actually in that situation. When you're dating that guy who is like the man that you dated 3 years ago, and something about him feels familiar, so that's why you're with him. But then he does the same exact thing that the guy did from before. And because you started to write about relationships when they're over, you see it. This is what that other guy did. This is the same exact thing that other guy did. I need to leave this guy alone. I need to move on. That's the purpose of journaling. That's the purpose of healing. And if you're out there dating, it's easier to see all of those red flags. When I tell you, you know, I've been divorced since 2014. And as I've been on this healing journey, when I tell you dating, yes, it's exhausting, but it has become more fun because it feels good for me when I realize that I'm not repeating something that I did before. The universe will keep throwing the same scenarios at me, the same scenarios that I said I didn't want anymore, the scenarios that I used to be okay with. The universe keeps sending them. And it's tempting as fuck. But when I see it, I literally laugh to myself. No, universe. I'm not going back there. I want something different. And this is what I want for all of you out there. I want you to get to a point in dating where it becomes fun again. And you're not getting overly upset about the BS, because it's a whole bunch of BS that comes with dating. But you expect it, and you know how to see it when it first rears its head, and you know how to get the hell out of Dodge and run in the opposite direction away from it. That's what I want for everyone out there who is listening to this program. Get to a space where you enjoy dating. Yes, you take your breaks because it's exhausting. But you know that you're having fun because you catch the red flags and the green flags. It's even better because when you start to move on a different level, when you know yourself and you love yourself, when I tell you those green flags start coming more and more and more, and that's what makes dating fun because you're having a good time. You are in control. And the other thing about being open to dating while healing, it's about how you show up for yourself while also learning to be seen by another. Because if you're, just broke up and you're dating, you have that conversation, recently, broke up and decided to, come out here and just see what's going on. I enjoy being in a relationship and I definitely want another one. This also shows your potential partner how you are when things aren't going right for you, which normally we don't see until further on down in the relationship. So can you imagine? Imagine if two people, guy and a girl, I'm sorry for LGBTQ community. I don't mean to offend anyone, but just for this podcast, a man and a woman are listening to this podcast, and you're going to do the work, and you both just broke up from a relationship and you both meet. Imagine how great it would be for both of you to have done this work and then meet and be able to have that type of conversation. Imagine the type of connection you would have with someone to have a vulnerable conversation in the beginning and to let them know, yes, I'm healing, but yes, I'm still out here and I want to date. And trust and believe there are people out there who are nice like that. Everyone out in the dating world, they're not assholes. I just think you'll find more of the assholes on the dating apps because that's what the problem is. We've gotten very lazy and we just want to swipe rather than actually going outside and showing up. So you kind of get what you pay for with the dating apps. Just a little something to think about. You have to look at it like this. The relationship is not the healer. You are. But love can be a mirror. The relationship is not the healer. You are. But love can be a mirror. Now, just to give you guys a little something to go off so that you know what's going on while you're dating if you're still healing. And things that you can look for so you know exactly where you are. So signs that you're losing yourself while dating. Number one, you silence your truth to keep the peace. I don't care what you are going through. You should never silence your truth. If you feel like you're silencing your truth while dating, you may need to pause. Be you. Be seen. Stand up for yourself. Always. Do not silence yourself. Another sign if you're losing yourself while dating, you over-explain your healing to justify boundaries. Now, what does that mean? You over-explain your healing to justify boundaries. So let's say you meet someone and they want to go on a date, and let's say the guy says, hey, why don't you come over to my house and I'll cook you dinner? Rather than you just saying, I prefer to go to a restaurant for a first date. I really don't want to come over to your house. I just got over a relationship and I'm a little bit vulnerable right now. And I don't know if being in your house and being alone with you, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. That's over-explaining. That's over-explaining. Your boundary is your boundary. He invited you over for a home-cooked meal. I'm sorry, this is just our first date. I would prefer coffee shop or a restaurant. I would prefer something public. Boom. And if you ask you why, that's my preference. I think we tend to explain ourselves way too much in all aspects of our lives. Sometimes a no is just a no and doesn't need the justification behind it. Sometimes. Another sign that you're losing yourself while dating, You fall for potential, not patterns. Now this one goes whether you are healing from a past relationship, past hurts, whatever. Everyone has done this. You meet someone, you talk to them, and you're just like, oh, they could be this amazing man, and they're this, and they're this, and they're this, all based off of their words. But you haven't seen any actions. I got caught up in this. I got caught up in this in my marriage. I saw something in him that he never saw in himself. And I kept waiting for him to see it. I kept waiting for him to see his greatness. And unfortunately, he never did. So that's one thing for me. I need actions. I will listen to every word that you say, every promise that you make, but it doesn't mean anything unless I actually see it happen. You fall for potential, not patterns. We need to think more about actions. For the ladies, is the guy that you're dating, is he actually pursuing you? Are you communicating on a regular basis? And a regular basis doesn't necessarily have to mean every day, but are you communicating? Is he planning dates? And for the gentlemen out there, are the ladies that you're trying to communicate with, are they communicating back? Are they open to your suggestions for date nights? Or are they last minute people? Do they call you Saturday at noon and be like, hey, let's do dinner? Because when people do that, you're an afterthought. Just letting you know. If someone calls you the day of, you're an afterthought. Someone who truly wants you, especially in the beginning, I'm not talking about you guys have already been on 2-3 dates and he calls you that day, that's fine, y'all already been together. But in the beginning, while you're getting to know each other, when someone wants you, they're going to plan in advance. They're going to give you options, per se. But they may say, okay, this weekend, are you free this weekend, which is a few days away? Those are the actions. Those are the patterns. Patterns are you planning stuff? Are you making me feel special? And the making me feel special, that goes both ways. And ladies, please don't get it twisted. If you are dating the same person, and let's say you've been on like 4 or 5 dates, you can pay for a date. You can pay for a date. Men deserve to feel appreciated as well. So it's all about the actions. Another sign that you're losing yourself while dating. You shrink your needs out of fear of seeming too much. No. We don't silence ourselves. We don't shrink ourselves. When you are in a relationship, a healthy relationship, you both are supposed to help each other. And if you're dating and let's say you plan a date, guy asks you out on a date and it's 2-3 days away and the day comes, and what if you're not feeling well? Then you call and you tell him, can we move the date to another day? I'm not feeling well right now. And I want to say this one, especially, and gentlemen, please don't come at me for this because I really only know this from the female perspective. But we as women, we shrink ourselves so much because we don't want to seem too much. We shrink ourselves so much that so many women out here don't have not even half of what they need because we shrink and give everything to everyone else. We're not doing that anymore. You need someone to pour into you as well. And gentlemen, I know that there are most likely many of you that shrink your needs out of fear of seeming too much and maybe seeming too feminine or seeming too, you know, sassy. The word escaped me for a minute, but by seeming too sassy because you may want to be pampered or you may want something. Don't shrink your need. We are all human beings and we all want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be valued. We want to be cherished. We want to be loved. So the moment you feel you need to shrink yourself, it's time to go. It's time to go. Go back to that self-love. Go back to that pouring into you until you feel like the king or queen that you are. Because you will never be too much for your person. Miss Nookie can guarantee you of that. Another sign you're losing yourself while dating, you ignore red flags to avoid being alone again. Now, being alone, it is not a bad thing because when you are alone, there is no one there to disappoint you. There's no one there to upset you. But do not let loneliness make you compromise your boundaries and your standards. Because I would rather be alone than get my heart broken by someone who showed me exactly who they were in the beginning. So I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. And it's funny, the other day I was on Instagram and there was a reel. And this gentleman in the reel, he said something so profound that I cannot get it out of my head. He said, don't miss someone who knows how to access you. I need a bomb drop. Don't miss someone who knows how to access you. Just really think and ponder about that. The next time you want to ignore a red flag, or the next time someone goes ghost on you and you're sitting here trying to, well, I don't know, and da 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 da. Don't worry about someone who knows how to access you. If there isn't a more clearer message than that, I don't know what is. And I think of that all the time now. If I meet someone organically and we exchange numbers and we're talking good and a day or two goes by and I don't hear and I'm like, hey, hope all is well, and I don't hear from you after that, I don't worry about people who know how to access me because they've made that choice to not access you. And you need to be strong enough to understand that and not spend any more time on them. Do not allow them in your headspace trying to figure out what their actions are. Their actions are loud and clear. They know how to access you, and they're not. Stop ignoring these red flags just because you don't want to be alone. And if someone disappears for a week and comes back, for me, I don't care to entertain that type of stuff. I will give, I will say this. I will give you a chance to explain yourself. I'll give you a chance to explain yourself. And I don't know. I have an internal lie detector. And depending on how I feel when I hear your story, I'll know whether or not I believe you. And the fact that you disappeared for a week and came back, I'm going to tell you whether or not I believe you. And if I tell you I don't believe you and you try to convince me to believe you, that just makes it even worse. Because then I feel like you're truly running game on me. And if I allow you to change my mind to trust you again, you're just going to come right back around and do the same thing again. Now, this is me, and this may be my thing. So I'm just telling you how I deal with things like this. You know, if you guys have your tactics or your ways about how you deal with people who spin the block, please put it down in the chat. Give us some pointers. You never know how what works for you may work for someone else. You never know. Now, keep in mind that each of these is a sign that healing, excuse me, that healing may be slipping into self-abandonment. You silence your truth to keep the peace. You over-explain your healing to justify boundaries. You fall for potential, not patterns. You shrink your needs out of fear of seeming too much. You ignore red flags to avoid being alone again. Definitely a sign of slipping into self-abandonment because you're not doing the things that you promised to do for you. Always take care of you. Next, we're going to move on to how to stay grounded while dating. So here's the first tip on how to stay grounded while dating. Practice pause. Breathe before you respond, especially when triggered. This is something that I definitely had to learn. I can definitely be a hothead when ready. And I mean, I can go toe to toe. So I've developed within myself where, you know, especially if I'm on dates, I talk to myself while driving to the date. I tell myself, you're going to be calm. You're going to be receptive. You're going to be feminine. You're going to be beautiful. You're going to be graceful. And and ladies, I want you to start talking to yourself like this on your way to dates. You're getting your mind ready. Because feminine energy, it's a nice, slow energy. That's why you breathe before you respond. You practice pause. That's more graceful. Next thing you want to do, date from the scar, not the wound. You've processed it, not just packaged it. So the wound that you had from that heartbreak, it's healing. So it's not open anymore. It's not hurting. It's becoming a memory because you've processed it. You didn't just pack it up and throw it in a box. You've processed it and it's healing. You have the scar. That's it. That's all that's left. because you've done the work. You're not hurting like that anymore. You also need to have a post-date ritual. Journal, check in with your body, don't spiral. Now I do have a journal, and it's like a dating checklist journal, and that's exactly what you do with this journal. Each date you go on, you do a little rundown about it. How was the date? What went well? What didn't go well? Are you going to see them again? Do you want to see them again? Do they want to see? Do you know whether or not they want to see you again? And if he wants to see you again and you don't want to see him again, how are you going to deal with that? Please, let's not ghost. I mean, unless they're an asshole. Ghost all assholes. But if they were a nice guy and you just weren't feeling them, let them know. Thank you for the date. I enjoyed spending time with you, but I don't believe this is the direction that I want to go in. And I wish you the best in your search for love. It's not hard to let someone down easy. It's not. It just sucks that you have to say it. Another way to stay grounded while dating, share when safe, not from pressure. Emotional honesty is earned, not dumped. Someone asks you a question that you don't feel like answering, let them know. I don't think this is the time for me to answer that question. I'm not ready to answer that question at the moment. I don't feel I know you well enough to answer that question. We need to remember that we have free will while dating. And you should not be doing anything you do not want to do. You share when safe, not from pressure. If someone pressures me about something I say I don't want to do, I'm out. I don't have time. I'm a woman of age. I'm articulate. I know how to speak up for myself. I know how to say yes. I know how to say no. And just don't got time for the BS anymore. Now another sign. Something you can ask yourself. Is this connection helping me honor my values? That is a deep question. And the reason why I say it's a deep question, because it's something that I've had to ask myself plenty of times. Earlier, I mentioned how the universe sends me, the universe keeps sending me the type of people that I no longer wish to deal with. And I could be talking to them, they could be right in front of my face. And in my mind, all I keep saying to myself is this really what you want? Is this moving you towards who you want to be and the relationship you want to be in? Or is this bringing you back to where you're coming from? Is this connection helping me honor my values? If you need to write that one down in your phone, if you need to put it on a sticky somewhere so you can see it when you get home after dates, whether it's on the refrigerator or in your bathroom on the mirror, write this somewhere where you will see it after a date. Because I guarantee you, if you ask yourself this question every time you go on a date, you will become a better dater. Is this connection helping me honor my values? Because that red flag that you tried to ignore, when you ask yourself this, and you truly love yourself, and you're going to be honest with yourself, you're not going to go on a second date with that red flag dude. or that red flag person because they're not honoring your values. Here's an affirmation for you guys. Hope you have your journals ready. I will not abandon myself to be chosen. I choose me, even while I'm choosing love. I will not abandon myself to be chosen. I choose me, even while I'm choosing love. When you're triggered by connection, sometimes love will awaken old pain. Now, that doesn't mean it's the wrong person. It means you're being invited to choose a new response. When you feel unsafe, breathe, name it, don't numb it. When you feel unsafe, take a breath. Name how you feel. Don't try to push it down. Don't try to push it away. When you feel unworthy, anchor to truth, not fear. When you feel unworthy, anchor to truth, not fear. Fear will stop you from having the best life ever. And lots of times, all you got to do is push through that fear and know your truth. Know that you are worthy of love. Love is everyone's birthright. The hard part is navigating this world to find your person. But you are never unworthy of love. Please, if there's anything you take away from tonight's show, understand that you are worthy of love. No matter who you are worthy of love. When you feel overwhelmed, ground yourself, pause, and come back to yourself. These are the things that you do while you're dating and you start to feel triggered. It happens to me at times. I may be out and the guy I'm with, he may do something or say something that reminds me of an ex. Sometimes it's a good thing that an ex did, sometimes it's a bad thing that an ex does. But I do get caught up feeling triggered sometimes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I don't push that moment away. I kind of bookmark that moment so I can really unpack it after the date is over. Because all of these things happen to me during my ADHD, my undiagnosed ADHD mind. It's 50 million things are going on up here at any point in time. Trust me. The amount of conversations I have, and I know many of you do too. You are my people. You are my people. So here's a journal prompt for you for this week. What version of me tends to show up when I feel unseen? What version of me tends to show up when I feel unseen? Now, when you work on that journal prompt, if you want to talk about that, I'm here for you. All you have to do is head on over to my website, missnookie.com, and you can book a free consultation. That's right. First Talk is for free. Let's sit and talk. Let me help get you in the right direction. What version of me tends to show up when I feel unseen? You can be healing and still worthy of love. You can be cautious and still open. You can take your time and still trust love to meet you there. I'm going to say that one more time. You can be healing and still worthy of love. You can be cautious and still open. You can take your time and still trust love to meet you there. If this resonated, tag a friend, leave a review, and come back next week for Dating with Clarity. How to know what you want and stop settling. Because love isn't perfect, but it's always in progress. I'm Miss Nookie. See you next week. Have a good one.